Hello everyone, welcome in. In this video I'd like to explain how and why are things done the way they are in the 106% category for this game. I'm gonna talk only about OG version for the PC, but note that there are differences across consoles and also for the 1.2.5 version of the game. And so what even is 106%? It's completing every level in the game and collecting all 100 bandages from a new save file. And after that, you're gonna have total progress of 106% in the in-game statistics. Note that this happens slightly before you actually complete everything, but for the run, you really do need to complete everything. Two things I want to mention straight away are, first, people often ask, where is the extra 6% coming from? And it's coming from 6 secret levels, which each contributes 1%. And the other thing, people often think that you need to get A+ times on every single level, which is not true. You only need to have A+ times on the light levels in order to unlock the dark levels, but on the dark levels themselves, you don't need an A+ time. It only counts if you complete the level or not. In this section I want to cover how the game is played, most of which you're gonna know if you already 106th the game before, so in that case feel free to skip ahead. So the game is divided into chapters, which are further divided into light world and the dark world. From a new save file you'll start with only chapter 1 unlocked. You unlock the other chapters by defeating light world bosses. And so in the chapter, light world levels are automatically unlocked. Dark world levels, they will get unlocked after you get A+ time on a corresponding light level. In order to collect bandages, you need to touch it in the level and then finish it. And there you have it. If you touch it but die like this, it doesn't count, so keep that in mind. There are so-called warp zones in this game which appear in certain levels like this, and you unlock them by touching them, but beware, after a while they disappear and you can no longer touch them like this. So you need to restart the level and try again. So I'm gonna touch it, it's gonna take me into the warp zone. And note that unlike Super Mario Bros. 1, it doesn't take you forward in the game, it just takes you to some extra levels you can complete. And so after you touch it, it gets unlocked in the chapter menu and you can always replay it from there. Important thing to note about warp zones is that the levels in them, they don't count as completed until you finish the whole warp zone, all 3 levels. So if you either quit out or die too many times, you'll have to redo it from the beginning. One more thing to add about warp zones is that you don't need to actually unlock them in order to get into it. As you can see, I have all the bandages in Rapture, even though I don't have 5.1 warp zone unlocked. And we can take advantage of that in the speedrun. And how to do that I will show you later in the video. There are 2 types of warp zones, retro warp zones and character warp zones. In retro warp zones there are 3 levels which you are going to play as a variation of Meat Boy. They contain 2 bandages, but you only get 3 tries per level before you are going to game over. So an example here is Sunshine Island, where you play as 8-bit Meat Boy. In character warp zones there are 3 levels played as a non-Meat Boy character, which you are going to unlock after you complete the whole warp zone. But unlike retro warp zones, you have unlimited tries per level. And as an example, here is the infamous Kid warp zone, where you play as the kid. If you press space quickly enough after touching Bandage Girl in the warp zone, the replay screen will show like this. And this is not an intended behavior of the game, and it can lead to a so-called bandage duplication glitch, which is banned in this category. but you can also benefit from it in a certain way in 106, as shown here. Now let's talk about the glitch curl and the glitch levels. As you can see, bandage curls and sometimes appear sort of glitchy. That can happen in any light or dark world level of chapters 1 to 6 after defeating the corresponding light world boss. Where she appears is based on RNG. And the probability is chapter completion percentage over 2001 when you haven't completed the whole chapter yet, and 1 over 11 when you have 100% chapter completion. When you touch glitch girl, you'll be taken to so-called glitch level, which is a secret level where you play as Meat Boy. They tend to be pretty long, and you only have 3 tries before you need to start over. Like if I die, I only have 2 lives left. Thankfully, the glitch level will be unlocked in the chapter menu next to level 1 here. So you don't need to get another glitch girl in order to enter it again. And in fact, glitch girl will never appear again in a chapter where you already unlocked a glitch level. If you get glitch girl on a level where there's a warp zone, after you finish, fail, or exit out of the glitch level, you will be put on the menu where the warp zone should be, even if the warp zone isn't unlocked, as I will demonstrate here. So I get into the warp zone, I quit out, and I'm on the warp zone. And now if I just press jump, I will get into it. And now I can finish the warp zone normally, collect the bandages, or unlock the character, and continue with the run. And the bandages and levels, they will count toward the game completion. Now that we know all the basics about the game, we can talk about differences between chapters. They can be separated into 3 groups. First, chapters 1 to 5, second, chapter 6, and third, chapter 7. In chapters 1 to 5, there are 20 levels in both light and dark world, and 20 bandages total. 7 bandages in light world levels, 7 bandages in dark world levels. Then in the light world there are 2 retro warp zones and 1 character warp zone. In the dark world there is only 1 retro warp zone. There is also a glitch level, and there is also a light world boss, which is unlocked after completing 17 light levels of the chapter. In chapter 6, the end, you can only play as Meat Boy. There are 5 levels in both the light world and the dark world. There are no bandages and there are no warp zones. There is a glitch level, and there is a light world boss, which is unlocked after finishing all the 5 levels, all the 5 light levels in this chapter. But there is also a dark world boss, which is unlocked after finishing 85 dark levels from any chapter. And finally there is chapter 7, the Cotton Alley, where you can play only as Bandage Girl, which is the same character as Meat Boy, it just has a different sprite. There are 20 levels in the light level, 20 levels in the dark level, and there are no bandages, no warp zones, no glitch level, and no bosses. Next, let's talk about the characters in Super Meat Boy. There is the default character, Meat Boy. Then there are characters unlocked through finishing character warp zones. Those are Commander Video in Forest, Chill in Hospital, OGMO in Factory, Fly Ranch in Hell, and Kit in Rapture. Then there are characters unlocked through collecting bandages, Headcrab for 10 bandages, Josef 30 bandages, Alien Hominid 30 bandages, 8-bit Meat Boy 40 bandages, Non-Naija 50 bandages, 4-bit Meat Boy 60 bandages, Runman 70 bandages, 4-color Meat Boy 80 bandages, Captain Viridian 90 bandages, and Steve for 100 bandages. Lastly, there is Meat Ninja, who is unlocked through getting 100% game completion in the statistics, which actually happens slightly before you finish everything. Every time you unlock a character, there will be a screen showing the character, and it looks like this. So you can skip it by pressing any button. So that's one thing. Another thing is the game actually still runs behind the screen and loads, and it can mess up with cycles. It can even stop the timer if you go to the next level up here. And you don't really want any of that. Besides, it takes too long anyway, so you really want to just skip through it as fast as possible. So, and you can skip with any button, so like just mash every button you can. Similarly to this, after having 26% or more total progress in statistics, there is 1/2000 probability that a similar screen with Meet Ninja will appear at the start of a level, or when you go back to level selection screen. And it behaves essentially the same as character unlock screens, and it plays also a weird melody. And this doesn't actually have a limit on how many times it can happen, and it also won't stop appearing even after you unlock Meet Ninja. And it looks like this. First, let's talk about spawn and death times differences between the characters. There is a useful table that lists all the times. I will link it in the description, you can check it out. And so this can come to play when choosing what character to use for farming Glitch Girl. But it also comes to play for something I think not many people know about, even if they ran the game for a long time. And that's if your character spawns faster than the duration of a level transition animation, which is like half a second, you cannot control it until the transition animation finishes. And this is mainly important for ILs, but it also affects 106% gameplay, so I'm gonna briefly cover it now. One level where this takes place in 106 that comes to my mind is 314 with Josef. So first let me finish and replay the level and do my normal strat. As you can see, it works just fine. Now I'm gonna replay the level, die first and attempt the same strat. But suddenly I bonked this platform. And the reason I bonked the platform is because on the second attempt I actually gained control of Josef earlier than in the first attempt. It's not because the cycle changed. It's strictly because I couldn't control Josef during when the transition animation was finishes. And this happens when you replay a level, but it also happens when you go to the next level. But it doesn't happen when you start from map. As you can see here, I still bonk. Next level where this can happen is on 516 when you farm Glitch Girl with Runman. Runman spawns very fast, so he's affected by this much more than Josef. And so basically you want to replay the level again and again until you get Glitch Girl. But as you can see, if I hold the right straight away, he doesn't move straight away. But now if I die, he goes to the right instantly. And it's because of the same thing as before. So like if you're farming like this, you need to wait with your sprint and jump input a little bit, because otherwise this can happen. Like you expect you can do it, not like this. And then you have like no sprint or something like that. So wait a little bit and then do it. And now finally let's talk briefly about how to play these characters. Starting with Meat Boy, he's the default character. You really should be familiar with how to play him because he's the most used character in the 106% category. And I won't actually cover it myself in the video, but I'll give you a few links that will be in the description. Next is Head Scrap. He's not a very useful character. Instead of sprinting, when you press the special key, he will hold on to walls and even ceilings. But yeah, he's not very useful for 106. Maybe you can use him to get a bandage in 118, but that's about it. Josef, on the other hand, is a very useful character for 106. So he can sprint, and if you press jump in the air, he can float like this, which in itself isn't very useful, but if you press jump twice in a very quick succession, you can actually float really high. And so you can either use dual jump for this, or you can use auto jump. And that's one thing, but another useful thing is if you just walk off, he has like a mid-air jump, and if you combine that with the float, you can just do these super floats in mid-air. Alien Hominid, when you press the special key, he can shoot at the ground, which makes him jump really high in the air and then stay there for a little bit. And this is mainly useful in combination with conveyor belts, where you can float really high in the air. Naija is the most useful unlockable character for 106, and she doesn't have sprint, but instead when she's in the air she has this dash, and it refreshes on walls and ceilings, which allows you to zoom with her like very quickly. She can also clip through walls if you know how to do it, and she's a very complex character. There is a tutorial on how to use her, and there is also a tutorial on how to clip through walls with her, and both will be linked in the description. Runman is another useful character for 106. Instead of sprint, he has this dash which he can activate on the ground or in air, which lasts for exactly 1 second. You can cut it short but by releasing the special key, but then you can't use it until the whole second finishes. So keep that in mind. Also, you need to repress it every time you have to use it, like this. Captain Viridian is a very slow character. Instead of sprint, he can like change gravity for him, and he's not useful for 106. Steve can place and destroy blocks around him using the special key. And for 106 he's mainly used in this level to get to the warp zone. Very important things about him is that if you finish a level with him, it doesn't count as completed. That's one thing. And other thing, if you use him, it introduces a small chance of the game crashing, which is kinda annoying. Commander Video is the first character you unlock in the category, and he's very slow, and even though he can sprint, his sprint is also pretty slow. His special ability is that he can float in a straight line in the air. After you jump, you press jump again, and he floats like this. And this is only used pretty much in this level to get to this warp zone, which is hidden here. Jill is unlocked in the hospital, and she can sprint, and her main ability is that if you press jump while she's in the air, she kind of stalls for a little bit. If you have dual jump, and you can press both of the buttons very fast, and she pretty much freezes in the air. But she's not very useful for 106. I only see people use her sometimes in 518 to get the bandage there. OGMO is unlocked in Factory. He's a double jump character. You can sprint, and if you walk off a ledge, he still has both of his jumps. Interestingly, his hitbox is also very small. And he's if you don't want to use Naija, he's a very useful character until you unlock the kit. Fly Wrench is unlocked in Hell. He's a triple jump character, so 1, 2, 3 jumps. Although they gradually get lower and lower and lower. So the first one is the highest, second one gets you like not so high, and the third one pretty much does nothing. And if you walk off a ledge, you still have all of the free jumps, and you can also sprint. And the interesting thing about him is that instead of wall jumping, he just slides up walls like this. But I don't see people use him very often in 106 though. Kid is unlocked in Rapture. He's a double jump character, very similar to OGMO. So like 1, 2 jumps. He can sprint. If you walk off a ledge, he still has both of the jumps. But he jumps higher than OGMO, and he also runs faster. So after you unlock him in 106, you're gonna mainly use him over OGMO. Meat Ninja is a similar character to Meat Boy, but he doesn't have sprint. Instead, his default running speed is very fast, and it's even faster than Meat Boy's sprinting speed. And instead, when you press special key with him, within a few frames before you would normally die, he becomes invincible for a moment, and it looks like this. And this works for Sauce. It also works for enemies like these abominations, and they even die when you go through them with him. Unfortunately, levels you complete with him, they don't count as completed. And he's unlocked at the very end of the run anyway, usually in Dark End, so he isn't used anywhere in the run. And finally we arrive to the Meat Boy variations. And their gameplay is exactly the same as a normal Meat Boy, but they have different spawn and death time. And that concludes all the characters you can use in 106. I'm not gonna cover which characters to use where or any strats. Instead, I'll link a document made by the speedrunning community that has links to videos explaining strats, some text explanation, and you can learn from there. Now we'll move on to selecting or switching characters, which may seem like a very trivial thing, but there are some interesting points to be made here. If you enter a level from the menu, before you unlock any character, the level will automatically start with Meat Boy. But once you unlock some character, you will be put in this character selection, always starting with Meat Boy. All the characters you have unlocked are in a line that loops around, and once you select one character, you will start the level with them. When you are in a level, you can pause and go to this switch character, where you have your characters in a list, but there aren't any of the Meat Boy variations or Alien Hominid. The game will always put you on the last character you are selecting this way. For example, if I hover over OGMO, when I exit and go back, it will still be OGMO, but the default is Meat Boy. And there are some tips on how to navigate this list. If you press up in the upper row, it will take you to Meat Boy. If you press down in the lower row, it will take you to Steve. If you press right on Steve, it doesn't take you anywhere. If you press left on Meat Boy, it doesn't take you anywhere. If you press left on Headcrab, you go to Kid. If you press right on Kid, you go to Headcrab. And you can use this to navigate fairly quickly in this list. For example, if I wanted to go to Kid from Meat Boy, I would have to do 5 right clicks. But I can also just press down and then left and get to him in 2 clicks. Now we get to something I call fast character switch. Normally, if you select a character through this menu, the game will take some time before it closes the menu and then you can play. But you can close the menu manually, which is much faster and it saves time for 106. So what you want to do with this trick is, obviously you pause, you press down, you press jump to get to this switch character list. Then you do some possible movement to your character and you select it by pressing jump again. And after you press jump, you want to immediately press your pause button like this. Alternatively, you can also, after you press jump, you can press up and then jump, which also closes the menu manually. One thing to note about this method is that if you do it, next time you open menu, the closing animation will still play. And this doesn't go away until it either completes or you go back to level selection. And this can actually mess you up when using a lot of auto jumps or Naija floats. One more thing, if you use fast character switch, don't try to use timer glitch after that, otherwise this can happen. And so you have this return to title menu and you can't do anything. It looks like a soft lock, but if you press menu up and then jump, it goes away. Fast character switch is obviously fast when you want to switch characters in the level, but it is also fast when you want to select characters that are 4 or more moves away from Meat Boy on this list. For example, Naija. Instead of selecting her like this, you select Meat Boy, and then you do fast character switch. If the character is 3 moves or less away from Meat Boy, it doesn't save time. You may get yourself into a situation from which you cannot finish the level or die in it, and so normally you would have to exit to map and start again, since the game doesn't have a restart button, or you would have to switch to a different character, then switch back to the character you want to use. But there is a little trick you can use, and that's what I like to call level restart, which is you go to the switch character list, you go to another character than you are currently using, and you're gonna select it, and after you select it you press jump again. And you go back to this switch character list, you go back to the character you want to use, you select it, and voila, you restarted the level with the character you want to use. I'll just recap the inputs real quick. So what you want to do is pause, down, jump, left, double jump, right, jump. And quickly it looks like this. Timer glitch is a very important glitch that makes the timer stop at 0.00 for the whole level. When you actually finish it, you get grade A+, and it will say 0.00 in the level selection. This is useful for levels where you cannot get A+ time, since you want to also unlock the dark level for 106%. This mainly happens in levels where there is a bandage, since it takes some extra time to get it, but you can use it on any level you want in the run. Note that if you die with timer glitch active, next time you spawn in, the timer will start normally. There are 3 ways to perform timer glitch. Number 1 is you pause before your character spawns in, select exit game, cancel, and then you unpause after your character spawns. Second one is you want to pause on the exact frame before timer starts, and you either can be really fast and precise, or what you can do is use 2 pause buttons, pause the game, and then press them pretty much at the same time repeatedly like this. And the third method is if you don't skip character unlock screen or mid-Naija screen fast enough, the timer will also stop, which I already showed in the character section of this video. For RTA runs, mainly variant 1 is used, and how difficult it is to perform depends on how you enter the level where you want to perform the time glitch. So if you enter from level select with any other character than Commander Video, it is straight up impossible to pause before the character spawns. And so you either have to select a different character, then switch to the character you want to use, and then perform timer glitch. Or when you enter, you just die once, and then you perform timer glitch. Another way is, if you finish a level, go to the next one. There will be a transition animation playing, during which you cannot pause. And if your character spawns faster than half a second, it will spawn faster than the animation finishes, so it will be impossible to do timer glitch straight away. But if you have a slower spawning character like Meat Boy, you have like 1/10 of a second to perform the glitch. So you need to pay close attention to the transition animation. There are two possible animations that can play. One is when there is like this saw going into the middle. The second one is when there is like a saw going to the right, like this. And so you need to react based on which one you get. But if you fail, you can just simply die once and perform timer glitch after that. Lastly, you'll have a lot of time to perform the glitch after you die or after you switch characters. I want to repeat that if you use fast character switch, after that try to use timer glitch, you'll get this screen, and as I said earlier in the video, you can get rid of it by pausing, hitting up and then pressing jump, then cancelling this and unpausing. Important thing to know is what happens with levels where you perform timer glitch when you restart the game. So I have 111 where I collected a bandage and performed timer glitch, and I have 114 where I performed timer glitch but there is no bandage. Now I'm gonna restart the game. And as you can see, 111, it says I have time of 60 and I cannot access the dark level. And 14, it straight up says I didn't complete the level at all. And even though I completed the dark level, I can't access it. Since Super Meat Boy runs are timed using real time, including load times, you really want to make sure that your game loads as quickly as possible. Usually it loads during cutscenes, but you can't skip the cutscene until the game is loaded, and which is mainly a problem if you use high details, which is the default setting for Super Meat Boy, and we'll demonstrate it on entering this Skypop warp zone. So now I'm on high details, and let's see how long it takes before I can skip the cutscene. And now on low details. So in this example there was a 0.4 second difference in the loading times. In just one warp zone, there are 20 warp zones total, so that would amount to 8 seconds of time loss just to load. But warp zones aren't the only place where cutscene plays. Also when you enter chapters, there's a cutscene. And when you enter bosses and when you exit bosses. And so you can easily lose tens of seconds just to load, so beware of that. You can't change these settings in game. You have to go to Steam, click on Super Meat Boy, click on settings, then here in general you go to this row, which is empty by default, and then you type minus low detail and exit. You can also try ultra low detail, which only makes a difference in the load times if you have like a very bad PC, but it makes the game looks really bad and it removes a lot of background visual cues, so I wouldn't recommend this setting unless you absolutely have to do it. Another important thing is don't use S key in warp zones and glitch levels, because even if you finish it, it won't count as completed when you press S, as seen here. So I unlocked the warp zone, but I didn't unlock Jill. Last thing concerning cutscenes is that after finishing Dr. Fetus, there is a skippable cutscene, and after that there are credits, which are only skippable by pressing backspace. But the important thing is, don't press backspace until you skip this cutscene. If you press backspace now, then the boss fight won't count as completed. So really make sure you skip the cutscene, and only after that press backspace. And there you go, the boss is finished. Normally you'd like to get Glitch Girl before you complete the whole chapter, but since whether she appears is based on RNG, you may not get her before you complete the whole chapter, and in that case you're gonna have to grind for her. Also, you can grind for her even before you complete the chapter, and that's for a potential time save, and mainly on a level where there's a warp zone, which is the case for 38X, or if it avoids replaying a long level, which is the case in End, where you want to farm Glitch Girl on 6-3X. There are 4 ways to grind for Glitch Girl, either by replaying the level again and again, or by dying in the level repeatedly, doing level restart, or by quitting to the level selection, which is a very dumb way. Don't do that. And when, where and how you want to do this in the run is usually route specific and specific to what you want to do within that route. Best levels to get a Glitch Girl on are: number 1, level with a warp zone, which can lead to a potentially big time save. Number 2, level after which you need to exit to level selection or a last level of the chapter, which saves a few seconds compared to number 3, which is basically any other level in the chapter. And then there is number 4, a level on which you already unlocked a warp zone, which loses 0.25 seconds compared to number 3 because you'll have to do 1 extra map movement. As I mentioned earlier in the video, the probability to get Glitch Girl is chapter completion percentage over 2000 before you complete the whole chapter, and 1/11 after you complete the whole chapter. And if you want to know more details, there's a nice sheet made by Shredberg, which I'll link in the description. I think the main thing you need to take from that sheet is that while you play normally through chapters 1 to 5, there is a slightly over 50% probability of getting Glitch Girl, and in End it's around 15%. There are many possible routes you can do in 106%. So for reference, check some of the routes that are in guide section of speedrun.com page, or just check runs on the leaderboards and see what people usually do. But any reasonable chapter order doesn't lose more than a couple of seconds compared to the best chapter order, but generally Dark End is played last, because if you finish the run on beating Dark Dr. Fetus, you won't have to watch the menu animation of beating him, which takes approximately 5 seconds. With that in mind, the most important thing about routing in this category is what characters you have unlocked when playing through certain chapters. And based on that, we can separate the routes into 2 categories: Naija based and non-Naija based. And I'd like to point out that even though the top runs all use Naija pretty heavily, and many people think that you need Naija to get good times in this category, you absolutely don't. You don't have to use Naija at all during the run, and you can still get very good times. First, let's talk about some routing decisions that are the same for all the routes. First of which is, on a level with warp zone, should I finish the level first, or should I enter the warp zone first? And the answer is that unless you have a good reason to finish the level first, going into the warp zone first saves 1 map movement, which is approximately 0.25 seconds. But the good reasons to finish the level first are: there's a possibility of getting Glitch Girl on that level, but you can't see her from the start, which is the case in 25X, 5.1 and 5.20X. Second, you would have to do unnecessary character switches, which is the case, for example, in 3.7 you want to finish the level with Josef first and then get the warp zone with him. And third, it is the last level before you have to exit the menu, which is pretty much the case only for 5.20X. If you don't get Glitch Girl during playing through the chapter normally, there are many good levels where you can farm Glitch Girl on in each chapter. Generally you want to use a level where you can see Bandage Girl either from the spawn or very quickly after spawning, and which is either fast to finish for replaying, or which you can die quickly from the spawn, and which you can finish relatively quickly once you get the glitch girl. So the first case, for example, is 5:16, when you can use Surroundman. You can replay the level very fast. For the second case, 1:18 is a good example, because you can both see glitch girl straight from spawn, and you can die quickly. Note that it's better to die out of bounds than to some obstacle in the level, because if you die out of bounds, it skips the death animation of the character. Good character to use for farming is Steve, for example in 5-3x, because he can replay levels very quickly. But the problem with him is he's unlocked after getting 100 bandages, which means you can pretty much only use him in the last chapter, and it also introduces a chance of the game crashing, which obviously can be pretty catastrophic for the run. So I'll name a few levels that are good to farm on after you complete the whole chapter. In Forest it's 1:18x and 1:18, Hospital 2:10x and 2:10, also possible to do 2:9x, Soul Factory 3:8x, or with Steve 3:3x and 3:18. In Hell 4:9 is mainly used, but you can also use 4:7 or 4:6. And with Steve you can also use 4:12x. Then in Rapture you can use 5:16 with Runman, or 5:6, or 5:3x with Steve. And in the end you can use 6:2. You can also farm Glitch Girl before you complete the whole chapter. And you may want to do this either for a potential RNG based time save, or on some of the last levels of a chapter, when you feel like your run will be dead if you don't get Glitch Girl quickly. For the first case, it's mainly used on 2 levels in the game. First one, 3:8x, it's because you can see Glitch Girl from spawn, you can die quickly. There is a warp zone on the level which takes a lot of time to get to. The potential time save there is like up to 15 seconds. The next level is 6:3x, which if you farm there before you complete Dark Fetus, you skip the necessity of watching the animation for defeating him in the run, which saves like 5 seconds. Also, it is the fastest level to die on in end by like 1 second. And also you won't have to replay 6:2 for the normal farm, which takes around 20 seconds or more. And so average, this farm saves 10 plus seconds, which is definitely worth trying to go for in the run if you feel confident about it. For the second case, I think it's only worth it in Forest in 120x, because it's at the very beginning of the run. It's not as costly to reset if you don't get good RNG, but you can try it on other chapters as well. So for Soul Factory you can use 3:18x with fast level restart. For Hell you can use 4:19x with fast level restart, or 4:20x normally. In Rapture you can use 5:18x, but if you feel desperate you might as well just hope you get the Glitch Girl on 5:20x, which saves a bunch of time because of the warp zone there. And in end you can try it in 6:3x. In Non-Naija routes you can use pretty much any character you feel the most comfortable with in each level. But if you're looking for an inspiration, you can always check out runs from people on the leaderboards. You can also check out the strat sheets that's gonna be linked in the description. But personally I think the most useful characters in Non-Naija routes are Meat Boy and the double jump characters OGMO, Kid and Josef. The best chapter order for Non-Naija routes is finishing the whole forest, because you don't really need to use any other character than Meat Boy there. And after that you complete the whole light world. And after you finish Cotton Alley, you finish Dark Cotton Alley, you go back to Hospital, and you finish the rest of the dark levels, starting from Hospital, going all the way to the end. Optimal routes revolve around unlocking Naija as soon as possible, and after that doing every level you can with her. And that is because she is really fast, and also because she can clip through certain walls, which I'm going to cover briefly towards the end of the video. But I want to stress once again that in order to get good times in 106, you don't really need to use these routes, and you also don't need to really use Naija at all. For Naija-based routes, the most important part is the beginning, which in current top runs is done like this. You do Wall Forest, then you do Light Hospital, Light Salt Factory, where you also do 3 bandages in levels 3-5x, 3-6x, and 3-7x. After that you go to Dark Hospital, where you unlock Naija after completing level 2-7x. You finish Hospital, and after that there are several possibilities you can do, which I'm going to cover in a bit. Skipping 5-1 in Light Rapture. The advantages are that you slightly increase the probability of getting Glitch Girl during normal playthrough of Dark Rapture, and you also introduce the chance of getting Glitch Girl on 5-1, which is a warp zone, and which can lead to a potential time save. The disadvantages are that it loses 0.25 seconds due to extra map movement, and that you will have to play Skyscraper Warp Zone, which is arguably the hardest one in the game, later in the run. Starting Dark End on level 6-4x. The advantages are that it can be a lot faster than normal if you don't get Glitch Girl during normal playthrough, because you can farm on 6-3x, which is the fastest farm in Dark End. But the disadvantages are that if you actually get Glitch Girl before you get to 6-3x farming, you lose some extra time due to unnecessary map movement. Unlocking Skyscraper Warp Zone using the Kid Warp Zone. So when you get into Light Rapture, you go to 5-7 immediately, and you go to the Kid Warp Zone. After that, you get in, you immediately quit out and re-enter it again. Then you finish the Warp Zone normally. And after you finish the Warp Zone, you will be put on the 5-1 Warp Zone. Which now, even though you can't see it, you can enter it normally. This routing removes the risk of dying when trying to get to the Warp Zone, but ultimately whether it saves time or loses time depends on how fast you can get to the Warp Zone normally without using the glitch. This section in Light Salt Factory, you can either use Josef or Alien Hominid, and using Hominid saves a little less than a second, but you have to land the optimal Hominid strats first try, which can be pretty tricky. You can see the Josef route in Mate's PB, and you can see the Hominid strats in either Warpos PB or in the segmented run. Skipping unlocking OGMO in Light Salt Factory. This is only a thing for the Naija based routes, and it is done so that you can leave Dark Salt Factory as the last of the first 5 chapters, and then you use Steve in order to get to the Warp Zone. And he can get there very quickly. Normally it takes like 10 seconds. For Steve, it's like 1. So the advantages for this are that it saves around 5 seconds in total, and the disadvantages are that it introduces a very small chance of the game crashing since you are using Steve, and also you are lowering the probability of getting Glitch Girl ever so slightly if you choose to farm 3-8x before finishing the chapter. Another Naija routes only thing is that if you get OGMO while playing through Light Salt Factory, then after finishing Dark Hospital, you go immediately into Dark Salt Factory, and the idea is you will farm on 3-8x, and if you get bad RNG, you can just reset much earlier in the run than if you left Factory for last. But the disadvantage is that this actually loses like 5 seconds compared to the optimal chapter order. If you want to unlock OGMO using Steve in Salt Factory, but you also want to grind glitch curl on FreeADX before completing the whole chapter, I'd recommend this route that Uber does in his 118.01 PB, which leaves Whole End and Cotton Alley as the last two chapters. And so the route is as follows. You finish Dark Hospital, you go to Light Hell, then you do Rapture. After finishing Light Rapture, you go back to Dark Rapture, you do Dark Hell, and then you do Dark Factory where you do your farm. And so if you get bad RNG, you can reset, well, at least not at the very end of the run. And after that, you go to End, finish the Light End, finish Whole Cotton Alley, and go to Dark End to finish the game. Last thing I want to cover in this tutorial are Non-Naija clips, because they can save a lot of time in this category, and not many runs currently on the leaderboard use them. And I already made a tutorial fully explaining how to do Non-Naija clips, but I'm gonna cover it very briefly here as well, and also I'm gonna list all the levels where you should clip in 106. You can separate clips into two categories. Half block clips, which usually utilize super dashes, and they look like this. Also, if you perform them correctly, they work every single time. The next group are full block clips, which either utilize super dash turnarounds or float away method. And these clips only work every third frame. Half block clips are fairly simple to perform, and they allow you to skip big parts of certain levels, so I think they are definitely worth learning for the run. And those are None in Forest, do 9x in Hospital, 3-1x, 3-2x and 3-10x in Salt Factory, 4-16 in Hell, and 5-1x in Rapture. What full block clips you should do depends on how well and fast you can do them, and also if you are willing to risk losing some time if you get bad luck and you don't hit the correct frame. Full block clips I believe are worth going for are None in Forest, 219x in Hospital, 313x and 318x in Salt Factory, 412, 420, 41x, 412x, 413x and 420x in Hell, and 51, 56, 57, 510, 55x, 59x, 514x and 516x in Rapture. There are other useful half and full block clips in the game, but they either require luck to save time on average, or I think are risky to do, and most noticeable for me are 319x, 214x, 517, 57x and 517x. And that's it for this video. Thank you for watching. I want to thank Krukrex for reading through the document that served sort of as a script for this video. I want to give shoutouts to the whole Super Meat Boy speedrunning community. Hopefully you learned something, and see ya.